Parents' worst nightmare caught on camera. A woman says this video shows a nurse abusing her son with cerebral palsy.
What are you doing? What are you doing? This is a small part of the video footage by Don Caldwell about the nurse's interaction with his son, Craig. On July 7, 2019, Don Caldwell and his wife installed cameras inside their home after noticing that their son, Craig, who has severe cerebral palsy, suddenly began showing signs of distress, even though he used to be cheerful. They didn't know that the nurse they hired to take care of their son was the cause of this until they caught it on video. Here are some of the worst nurses caught on camera. On June 32, 2015 body camera footage was released showing the shocking arrest of a nurse known only as Jessica, who was accused of stealing from patients who were near death while she was their caregiver. Jessica worked at a nursing home where many patients were weak and in the final stages of their lives. Instead of providing comfort and dignity, she allegedly abused her position to steal valuable belongings from the patients, including money, property, and various credit cards. These were discovered in her possession when she was arrested. According to the investigation, the case began after authorities reviewed the CCTV footage inside the nursing home, where it can be seen that Jessica was tampering with the belongings of a patient in critical condition. Because the patients were very weak, they easily became victims. In one incident, she was even seen taking a Rolex watch from a man who was barely conscious. According to the investigation, it seemed she thought no one would notice because the patient's family rarely visited. During the arrest, body cam footage showed the police talking to Jessica as she was leaving work. When asked about the stolen items, she initially denied it, but later on, she allowed them to empty her pockets. There, they recovered the Rolex, $500 to $600 in cash, and credit cards that matched the report from the nursing home. While talking to her, she seemed to show no remorse, and even insisted that the patients didn't have any family who would look for their belongings. The police contradicted her, saying that items like the Rolex could be mementos or inheritance for the patient's family. The conversation also showed her lack of understanding of the harm caused by her actions, and she was more focused on her own situation and problems. Despite the evidence from the CCTV and the recovered items, she remained defensive and repeatedly asked if she could leave. Eventually, she was arrested and handcuffed. The police told her that she was done working there because there was clear evidence of theft. This is when she became emotional and admitted that she had been stealing for almost a year. According to her, it started when she went back to using illegal substances, and she used the stolen items for herself and her children. She also mentioned that she has a child at home, so the police contacted her ex-husband to take the child while she was being taken to jail. What's even more surprising is that Jessica's ex-husband immediately agreed to take their child and also said that he would file a case to get full custody of the child. Because of this, Jessica's situation became even worse because aside from losing her job and freedom, she could also lose her parental rights. In the investigation, some details about her job also came out. Jessica insisted that she was being mistreated and that her salary at the nursing home was very low. But the police clarified that this does not lessen the gravity of her crimes. The body camera footage also shows her trying to plead with the police not to arrest her. She even tried to explain that what she did was actually a favor, since no one was visiting the patients anyway. But this only strengthened the authorities' belief that she had no respect for the dignity and property of the patients. In the end, she was formally taken into custody while the police made it clear that all the evidence against her would be presented in court. Nevertheless, the investigation is still ongoing as the authorities try to identify all of Jessica's victims and the full extent of her actions. Although she admitted to stealing for more than a year, it is still being determined how many patients she targeted and the total amount of what was stolen. The families of the patients are also being informed about what happened, and some are reportedly planning to file a civil case against Jessica and even the nursing home for failing to prevent the thefts.
Right now, we are with the women who say this video is
This is a small part of what Dawn Caldwell captured on video of the nurse's interaction with her son, Craig. This is part of the video that Dawn Caldwell recorded about the nurse's treatment of her son, Craig.
In 2019, a mother from Sparta, Tennessee, hired a nurse named Milana Smith to care for her child with special needs. But she didn't know that this person wasn't who she appeared to be to others until she saw a shocking video on Facebook. The case of Tennessee nurse Milana Smith first made headlines after Dawn Caldwell reported that her 20-year-old son Craig, who has cerebral palsy, was abused in their own home. Craig cannot speak and is in a wheelchair, so he relies heavily on caregivers for his daily needs. According to Dawn, her son used to be cheerful and responsive. But when Smith started working in their home in May 2019, Craig's behavior noticeably changed. He often became irritable. He would cry, repeatedly bang the tray of his wheelchair, and show intense anxiety that his mother couldn't explain. On July 7, 2019, Dawn and her husband decided to leave the house for a few hours. Before they left, they secretly set up cameras to see what was happening while Craig was left alone with the nurse. On their way home, Dawn opened the live feed on her phone and began recording. And what she saw was extremely shocking. In the video, you can see Smith hurting Craig's leg, doing something to it, poking his face, and cruelly shaking him while he was sitting in his wheelchair. In one part of the video, you can see the nurse just sitting and watching television, violently flipping the pages of the book in front of Craig as if he was just a nuisance and not a patient who needed proper care. It's clear from the captured images that the nurse, who was supposed to protect and care for a weak and vulnerable young man, was actually the one causing him harm. Dawn immediately went home and confronted Smith, ordering him to leave the house. After Smith left, she immediately called the Jackson County Sheriff's Office to report the abuse. Aside from the police, she also contacted Adult Protective Services and the Tennessee Board of Nursing to start an official investigation. The case progressed quickly and investigators reviewed the video evidence. Eventually, Milana Smith was charged with Class B misdemeanor assault by the District Attorney's Office. But according to the decision, if she complies with certain conditions, the case can still be expunged from her record. Despite the shocking video, Smith was not imprisoned and was still allowed to remain a licensed nurse. This angered the public even more when her license was renewed. Her license, even though the incident had already been reported. The public's anger grew even more when other families came forward. On November 13, 2019, a mother from Sparta, Tennessee, discovered that Smith had also been her child's nurse. While they were in the living room with Smith and her child, who also had developmental delays, she saw the viral video about the abuse online. After reading Smith's name in the article, she read some parts of it out loud, but Smith suddenly grabbed the cell phone from her hand before quickly leaving the house. According to the second mother, her child was not harmed, but after seeing what happened to Craig, she felt fear and anger because Smith was still allowed to work in homes even though there was already a documented case against him. Because of this, many families requested stricter protection and safeguards for vulnerable patients. While Dawn Caldwell continues to fight for justice for his child and asks that the case be taken seriously, another mother said she would do everything to prevent Smith from entering the homes of other innocent families. Many families also expressed deep concern that a person caught on video harming a disabled patient was still able to continue working as a nurse with access to other vulnerable individuals. Because Craig could not speak or defend himself, it's possible that the abuse would have continued if his mother hadn't trusted her instincts and installed surveillance cameras in their home. However, according to investigators, even though the abuse captured on video was reported to various agencies, they said they could not impose any further penalties on Nurse Smith unless she violates the law or regulations again. In January 2025, Ann King, an 88-year-old retired nurse with dementia, was admitted to Reigate Grange, a luxury care home in Surrey operated by Signature Senior Living. The cost of the care home reaches approximately $10,000 per month, making it one of the most expensive facilities in the country. Signature Senior Living, owned by a large Canadian pension fund, operates more than 30 facilities across England and is known for its premium service. Because of this, Anne King's family expected her to receive high-quality care. But what followed was a shocking series of abuse and neglect that was eventually exposed through secret recordings. A few months after Anne was admitted to the facility, her children, Richard Last and Claire Miller, began to notice signs that their mother was not being properly cared for. As their suspicions grew, Richard secretly placed a hidden camera next to his mother's bed in the fall of 2021 to monitor how the staff were treating her. The camera remained there until Anne's final months at Reigate Grange, and the footage it captured revealed repeated harm and mistreatment. The video depicts staff teasing, belittling, and cursing at a confused, frightened Anne. On one occasion, she was also handled violently, causing her to scream in pain and fear. In one incident, she was left lying on the floor for almost 50 minutes before the staff even helped her stand up. In another incident, a male caregiver even knelt in front of her when she asked a question. But instead of calming her down, he responded coldly and without any sympathy. The harm wasn't just in words. A cleaner allegedly even harmed Anne using a rag that was used to clean the toilet while she was lying in bed. The same employee also threatened to dump the trash can on her head and even made inappropriate and indecent gestures near her face. There were also staff members who deliberately turned the lights on and off to confuse her even more, while just watching her struggle and be afraid. This long list of incidents continued and left Anne feeling scared and defenseless in a place that was supposed to be safe for her. Despite the countless hours of recordings that clearly showed the abuse, the authorities initially took very little action. The Crown Prosecution Service insisted that there was not enough evidence to file a case, which greatly shocked Anne King's family. For them, the disturbing footage was more than enough to hold those involved accountable. However, the only thing Surrey police managed to do was to give a community resolution to the cleaner who harmed Anne, a minor penalty that does not go to court. In March 2022, Nina, Richard Last, and Claire Miller removed their mother from Reigate Grange. But just a few months after she was brought home, Anne King passed away at their house in October 2022. Although Anne King's death was declared natural, her children believe that the harm and neglect she experienced in the care home played a major role in her rapid decline. On September 22, 2023, almost a year after she passed away, the Care Quality Commission announced the start of a criminal investigation into Reigate Grange. The purpose of the investigation is to determine whether the care home and its managers failed to provide safe care, and if there were unqualified or unsuitable employees allowed to work there who violated regulations. As an immediate response to the case, the manager of the care home was promptly transferred to another Signature Senior Living facility at that time. The facility also admitted that the behavior of the staff caught on the recordings was appalling, and confirmed that the employees involved were no longer with the company. In addition, the company also said that they closely cooperated with the police and the CQC since the case was exposed. As part of their cooperation, Signature Senior Living implemented a new system where families of dementia patients can install monitoring cameras in the private rooms of their loved ones. The footage will be reviewed by independent reviewers and can be provided to the family upon request. The company is also advocating for the establishment of a national register of care workers to prevent individuals involved in abuse from working in the same industry again. This step became important after it was discovered that Anne King was not the only one who experienced such a case. According to an investigation by ITV News, more than 1,000 complaints of abuse or neglect in care homes across the country were recorded last year. But only about one of these led to criminal charges. Because of this, campaigners are now calling for stricter supervision and for safety monitoring to be made mandatory, especially for residents who cannot report or defend themselves. However, up to now, no one has been held accountable for the abuse that was caught on camera at Reigate Grange, even though the investigation is still ongoing. Meanwhile, a new video has surfaced from inside Coweta County Jail, where a nurse was arrested for allegedly smuggling contraband into the facility. Before working at Coweta County Jail, Chinika Laxantre Roberts lived in Georgia, where she grew up and trained as a licensed practical nurse. When she was hired to work at the jail, she had already been a nurse for several years and was considered reliable. She worked there for 3 years and developed close relationships with both the staff and the inmates, until her career suddenly collapsed after she was caught on surveillance video. On May 26, 2022, CCTV inside Coweta County Jail captured what seemed to be a simple transaction between Roberts and an inmate at the counter. Because investigators had received information about a possible smuggling operation, they closely monitored the incident, as the inmate bent down, reached into Roberts' pocket, and took something out. After that, he quickly stuffed the item inside his orange jail jumpsuit, and it could be seen sliding down inside his pants. The deputies immediately searched the inmate's cell and pod area. During the search, various contraband items were found, which strengthened the suspicion that smuggling of prohibited items was happening inside the jail. Among the confiscated items were prohibited tobacco, items used for illegal gambling, and even an improvised knife or shank. Because of this, authorities learned that the secret transaction seen in the video was not just a one-time incident, but part of a larger smuggling operation inside the facility. On June 2, 2022, Roberts was arrested and charged with possession of prohibited items with intent to distribute, as well as bringing contraband past the prison guard line. Investigators also warned that more charges could be filed against him as the investigation deepens. For Roberts, who was once trusted with the health and care of inmates, his career completely collapsed after his arrest and involvement in the expanding criminal investigation. It didn't take long for the case to grow even bigger. On June 10, 2022, deputies announced that 6 more individuals had been arrested in connection with the smuggling operation inside the jail. Those arrested included both inmates and people outside the facility. Among those named were Antonio Carter, Raphael Kirkland, Rashad Houston, and Hunter McDonald, all of whom were already serving their respective sentences at that time. Another inmate, Kenneth Fierce, was identified as the man seen in the video with Roberts. Not long after the arrest, authorities realized that the operation was much broader than they initially thought. It was not just a simple connection between a nurse and an inmate. According to investigators, the group was allegedly using cell phones and possibly other means to coordinate the smuggling of illegal items and contraband into the prison. Eventually, 35-year-old Renata Leonard was also arrested, who was said to be helping organize the operation from outside the prison. She was charged with conspiracy to cross guard lines with contraband, conspiracy to possess drugs with intent to distribute, and illegal use of a telecommunications device to commit a crime. After the extent of the operation was revealed, deputies immediately locked down the pod where the cell of the inmate involved in the case was located and brought in K-9 units to conduct a more thorough search. In the operation, more bags of illegal drugs, tobacco, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cigarettes were found along with other weapons, according to authorities. These pieces of evidence further strengthened the connection of the smuggling operation to Roberts and the inmates he worked with. Investigator Toby Nix explained that smuggling inside correctional facilities is always considered a felony offense. According to him, anything illegal outside the prison remains illegal inside, and bringing in prohibited items or other contraband directly puts the safety of inmates and even employees at risk. For Kenneth Fierce, the effects of the case came quickly. He and several others involved in the smuggling ring are now facing new charges that could add many years to their current sentences. Meanwhile, Robert still faces felony drug charges. However, although only the first case filed against him was dismissed, the discovery of methamphetamine and fentanyl during the search suggests that he could still face more serious charges in the future. In December 2016, Diana Barbata, a 70-year-old woman from Punta Gorda, Florida, noticed that too many pills were missing from her newly refilled prescription of lorazepam. According to Barbada, she had only used 12 pills since her prescription was refilled, but when she counted them, 36 pills were already missing. At that time, only 2 people had access to their house: her daughter and the home health nurse who visited them several times a week. That nurse was Jessica Brown. Jessica Brown is a 39-year-old licensed home health aide who works at Synergy Home Care, a caregiving service based in Venice that provides in-home caregivers. She was hired to help Barbada take care of her husband who has dementia. At first, her service seemed fine and she was able to provide the help the family needed. But when the pills went missing without explanation, the family started to become suspicious. Because of this, they contacted the detectives and, with Barbada's permission, secretly installed a surveillance camera in the kitchen near the cabinet where the medicines were kept. On January 7, 2017, the camera finally captured what was really happening. In the footage, you can see Brown opening the cabinet, taking the bottle of prescription pills and then stuffing it into his pocket as if it were nothing. In another angle of the video, you can also see him putting something inside his shirt before returning the bottle to the cabinet as if nothing happened. After this, he acted normal and calm, even fixing some things on the counter before finally leaving while holding a drink. He did it quietly and carefully, but it was clearly caught on camera. When Brown left the house that day, Barbada immediately checked the medicine bottle and discovered that 13 pills were missing again. Because the detectives had been monitoring the situation for a long time, they acted quickly after obtaining the evidence. After Brown left the house, he was immediately stopped by the police. During the stop, 7 of the stolen pills were found on him. He also admitted that he took 6 more pills while he was still inside the patient's house. Because of this, the disappearance of all 13 pills was explained, and Brown was directly linked to the theft. He was immediately arrested and charged with grand theft of a controlled substance before being taken to Charlotte County Jail. Eventually, he was able to post bail and was temporarily released, but the case against him continued. During the interrogation, Brown also admitted that he had previously stolen pills from the house, which explained why the 36 medicines were first noticed missing. Barbada was extremely shocked and frightened by what happened, as he had trusted Brown to help take care of his wife who needed constant attention. But instead of helping, the caregiver betrayed the trust that was given to him. In this case, the surveillance footage not only proved the theft, but also became the only way to carry out the arrest. Without the video, the disappearance of the pills might have remained a mystery, and the thefts could have continued without anyone noticing. Not long after his arrest, Synergy Home Care, the company he worked for, announced that Brown was no longer with the company. Although they refused to give further comments about the case, other agencies encouraged families to install surveillance cameras to protect their loved ones and ensure that caregivers are responsible and doing their jobs properly. On January 13, 2017, news about Brown's arrest spread quickly. Reports showed his mugshot along with details from the surveillance footage and the charges filed against him. In the end, Brown faced losing his job, public exposure of his actions, and criminal charges that could affect his life for many years.